Hello and welcome to this video that's going to talk to you about apostrophes and the two uses of apostrophes, possession and contraction, to help you with your work today for the daily challenge in English. Apostrophes are a form of punctuation which have two uses in our written language. They're used to show when two words have been contracted. We call this contractions. And we also use them to show possession, when someone or something is owned by someone or something else. I'm going to talk about both kinds in the video, talking about contractions first, which is something we should be fairly familiar with, and then I'm going to talk to you about the use of apostrophes for possession, which many of us are familiar with, but it's just a top up on those rules for how and when we use an apostrophe and an S. I'm also going to talk about singular and plural nouns and how they take an apostrophe. Contractions are one form. Apostrophes are used in contractions, that is when we have taken two words and put them together. Now we should all be familiar with words like can't, won't, I'm, she's and couldn't. They're words we use every day. All of these words have apostrophes to show a contraction has taken place. Here the apostrophes, which are these parts, are telling you that some letters have been removed, have been taken away in order to join two words. Can't has had can and not joined together. Won't is will and not. I'm is I and am. She's is she and is. And couldn't is could and not. As you can see, sometimes only a single letter has been replaced or removed, as in cannot, and I'm, and she's, and couldn't. But other times many letters will change, so will not is a good example there, where they've taken out quite a lot of things to get down to the shorter version in the contraction. But it's worth knowing that not all contractions are just a case of taking out a few letters. Sometimes they change quite radically. It's worth becoming familiar with common contractions like these and their spellings, so that you're not only clear on how to spell them, so what they should look like, also what they mean. Knowing that won't means will not is important if you're trying to use it in a sentence. In your writing, you can make a decision on whether you will use a contracted form or not. This can have an impact on the emphasis of your sentence. So let's have a look at these two examples. I couldn't believe she did that. I could not believe she did that. There's a real difference. I know I've underlined to add emphasis to it, but when we leave our words uncontracted, leave them out, leave them in two separate words, often there's more of the emphasis on the negative, especially with the not here. If it was I am instead of I'm, it's more force and power behind it, so you can use that intentionally. Alternatively, you could use a contraction on purpose in order to make the sentence have less emphasis. You want to emphasize maybe a different word. I couldn't believe she did that. And it's just a handy tool for you to use in your writing, and think about how and when you could use a contraction for effect. Apostrophes are also used to show possession, that something or someone is owned by something else. Here we have got the shoe which belonged to the boy, the children that belonged to the school, the skateboard which belonged to the girl, and the joy which belonged to John. In each of these cases we can change the sentence to make it much shorter and more concise, let alone sounding a lot more natural, by using a possessive apostrophe. So the shoe which belongs to the boy can become the boy's shoe. And I'm using the apostrophe S here on our noun of boy, the person who is possessing, to get rid of or to alter the whole phrase here. The children that belong to the school, the school's children, school children. The skateboard which belonged to the girl, the girl's skateboard. And the joy which belonged to John is John's joy. These phrases are a lot more commonplace. They're the ones that you would usually use. You wouldn't, I can't imagine any of you coming up to me saying, the shoe which belonged to the boy is missing. You'd say the boy's shoe is missing. But it is important to understand what that phrase is doing, what the apostrophe and the S are doing. They're showing you that what has come after the noun is owned by the boy. Apostrophe S is showing you that the children are owned or belong to the school. Apostrophe S is showing you the skateboard belongs to the girl. So whatever follows afterwards, the noun that follows after that apostrophe S belongs to whatever the apostrophe S is attached to. For singular nouns, so when we're talking about one person or one thing owning something, the rule for using the apostrophe depends on what the final letter of the word is. For those words which don't end in an S, so here we've got boy, girl and cat, they don't end in an S, we simply add an apostrophe and the S. So boy becomes apostrophe S, boys. Girl becomes apostrophe S, girls. And cat becomes apostrophe S, cat. So we might have the boy's pyjamas, the girl's book, the cat's paws. If, however, the word does end in an S, like octopus, rhinoceros and walrus, we simply add an apostrophe on the end. So the octopus's tentacles, the rhinoceros's horn, and the walrus's tusks. The octopus tentacles were clever, the rhinoceros horn was sharp, the walrus's tusks were long. Okay? So this is all for singular nouns, nouns which are talking about one thing, one boy and the boy's socks, one girl and the girl's book, one cat and the cat's paws. Now we're going to have a look at plural nouns, which uses a very, very similar rule. So on the left here we've got singular nouns, boy, wolf and child. The plural means we're talking about more than one. If we've got one boy, we have then two boys. One wolf, two wolves. One child, two children. Now of course I've used the example of two children, but you could say many children, 100 children, 100 wolves, 1,000 boys. Irrelevant, they're all plural. There's just more than one of that thing. When we were talking about the singular, to make it possessive with the apostrophe, we just had to add apostrophe S. For wolf, apostrophe S because it doesn't end in an S, and child, apostrophe S because it doesn't end in an S. For the plural, we just use the same rule again. So if the word that we're looking at ends in an S, then we just put an apostrophe on the end. Boys. Wolves ends in an S, so it's just an apostrophe. The wolves howl. Echoed through the night. For children, it doesn't end in an S, so we add apostrophe S for children's break time. I think that's really nice, actually, as a really kind of straightforward, simple thing to remember, because all you really have to remember is if it ends in an S, just add an apostrophe, and if it doesn't, apostrophe S, regardless of whether it's singular or plural. What matters about plural nouns and making sure we know that it's a plural and where to put the apostrophe is in the following example. So here we've got two sentences. The boys' socks were on the bench. The boys' socks were on the bench. They sound exactly the same. And they have similar, but not completely identical meanings. And the whole meaning of the sentence revolves around the use of that apostrophe. In the first example, we have got apostrophe, B-O-Y, apostrophe S, so I know that it's talking about one boy. One boy's socks were on the bench. In our second example down here, we've got the boys' apostrophe socks. So I'm actually using a plural noun here. So I'm not talking about one boy, I'm talking about lots of boys. Many boys' socks were on the bench. And that has a real impact on the meaning. In the first case, it's a lone pair of socks on a bench by the beach. Well, in my head, by the beach. It doesn't say by the beach. Whereas down here, we have got suddenly lots and 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 lots of socks. And it's all based on where that apostrophe is placed. Where it came before the S and we had a singular boy, or where it came after the S indicating there were many boys and many socks. So just be careful when reading to note where the apostrophes are and in your writing about where you mean to put the apostrophes, because you could change it all from the dragon's breath and a single dragon to many dragons and their breath. That might make a very different story. I also want to talk to you a little bit about the difference between its and its. Again, two words that sound the same and are often used incorrectly by people because they are trying to show possession and thinking about apostrophes. The one on the left has got the use of the apostrophe, and in this case we are looking at a contraction. So actually we've got it is. So it's with an apostrophe means it is. So you might have something like it's raining outside. Where you mean it is raining outside. It's without an apostrophe, as on the right here, is showing possession, and it shows that something, it's something, for example, its tail is wagging. So you're kind of saying the tail belonging to it. So that's how it shows possession. A lot of the time people confuse the two because they think you have to put an apostrophe to show that something possesses or belongs to something else. You don't have to do that for its. If I wrote its tail is wagging, my sentence would actually say it is tail is wagging, which is nonsense. Doesn't make any sense at all, does it? My best top tip is to say the sentence out loud to yourself, and whenever you see an apostrophe with its, is to break it down into it is. If the sentence still makes sense, then you know you've got it right. If it doesn't make sense anymore, get rid of the apostrophe, and that's probably what you were going for. To recap then, what we've been looking at today is apostrophes and how apostrophes are used for contractions and for possessives. For possessives, the use of the apostrophe depends on whether you're using a singular noun or plural noun. For both, however, Where you add the apostrophe depends on where the ending is. So if your word ends in something that isn't S, then you add apostrophe S, as in boys, wolves, and children's. And if your word ends in an S, then the apostrophe just comes straight after, as in octopus, wolves, and girls. And we just have to be mindful of whether we're talking about one thing for the singular or many things for the plural, so that our sentences make sense. I hope that's been helpful. I hope you have enjoyed the video, and good luck with your task today.